Hey, I'm going to be sharing some tips for riding a one wheel on a crowded trail or path. And what is crowded? Well, I'm talking about a path or a trail that's shared by a number of other pedestrians, joggers, bikers, cyclists, or other personal electric vehicles. Essentially, a path that'll require you to navigate among other people. And of course, the word crowded can be very subjective. Maybe you're on a path that's jam-packed with people, or maybe you're on a trail where just a few people a minute go by. But what I'm talking about here is helpful tips to keep in mind when you're riding your one wheel in a confined shared space. This is kind of a discussion of path etiquette with a one wheel focus. So, of course, the first step is to be safe and have fun, just to get that out of the way. Wear a helmet and pads and enjoy your ride. Second, you should always be balanced. Make sure you've mastered, or at least are confident in your abilities to turn, to stop, and idle. When you're on a crowded trail, you'll find that you need to do a lot of maneuvering. If you're not comfortable making turns on demand, or if you're not able to slow down when you need to, you might end up accidentally running into someone or something. Like you see here, I didn't come to a complete stop, but I went down to a very slow pace. In particular, it's good to check your skill level with bringing your board to a halt and idling while you're still on it without getting off of it. So you're just floating on the board or just barely going forward, slower than the speed of a walker. That's something that I find I need to adjust my speed to that of a pedestrian regularly when the trail gets clogged up on the right side, and I need to wait for the left side to open up so that I can pass. You just slow down to slower than a walker. Which brings me to the next tip. Know how to look behind you. And you'll see I do this a lot in this video. This is self-explanatory. You need to be able to quickly glance behind you to check that if you move to pass a person or a group that you're not going to collide with another jogger or biker who's coming up fast behind you. When you're driving a car, you have a rearview mirror. You can easily see behind you, but most of us don't have something like that on our one wheel, so you need to swivel. Turning your torso and your head to look behind you isn't all that difficult, but it is something that I had to make an effort to develop, because the motion does shift your body weight, and you need to be aware of maintaining balance when you make that shift. Glance behind you, check for the all clear, and you're good to pass. And you'll see here I slowed down to an idle behind those pedestrians. And the next tip, you should always be moving in predictable patterns or a predictable direction. I know it's important to always be carving, and you see here I'm just ever so slightly carving. Keep those feet muscles moving back and forth, reduce fatigue. So I don't want to say don't carve on a crowded path, but I mean to say that you should save the tricky stuff and the show-off material for the stretches where you don't have anyone around. Everyone else on the trail is doing their own thing. They're generally walking or jogging or biking in a straight line. And here you'll see another example of how important it is to be able to come to an idle. This is especially necessary at crosswalks, like you see. So if you're out there weaving back and forth unpredictably, you might startle people on the trail, because from their perspective, there's just a person flying towards them erratically. And also, if there's another vehicle like a bicycle coming up behind you that's going faster than you, your predictability will allow them to pass you safely. So if you are carving, keep it steady, smooth, and basic when you're around others. And on that note, always be on a lookout for dogs and children. They are the most unpredictable elements of a crowded path. Children love to be walking in a straight line and suddenly dart to the left because they saw a butterfly or something fun on the ground. And I found that dogs' reactions to the one wheel are extremely varied. Some dogs don't give two bits about it, while some dogs think that I'm driving straight towards their owner with the evilest of intentions. So they might make a dramatic leap and try to, bite off my leg to save their owner. Dogs are great. We don't deserve them. But, of course, you need to know that the dog might leap out at you, so you should give him some extra berth. Sometimes those leashes are long, and the dogs jump out pretty far. Dogs and children are probably the two worst things to collide with when you're out there, too. You don't want to run into either of them. You would not feel great about yourself, I think. Next tip, and this is kind of a bonus, is to wear a loud speaker. Like a loud Bluetooth speaker. Not only do you get to blast some tunes to enhance your floating experience, but the speaker is actually a great way to let people ahead of you know that you're approaching. A lot of people who ride a bicycle have a bike bell, for instance. We all know the stereotypical ching ching sound of a bike bell. And when you're on a crowded trail on a bike, that's a polite way of telling people ahead of you to make some room. And I find that the Bluetooth speaker is such a great way to be constantly broadcasting your position. As you get near groups of people, they hear the music getting closer, they glance behind and see you, and they adjust accordingly to give you space. And hopefully they appreciate the music. And finally, don't forget to smile and wave. Of course, it depends on where you're riding, but there's so many people out there who just love seeing the one wheel, who, look at it with a stare of wonder. I mean, I don't blame them. The one wheel is really freaking cool. That's why I ride it. So when you pass by those folks, give them a smile and a wave. Keep the stoke going. So what other essentials did I miss? What else do people need to keep in mind in these scenarios? Let me know in the comments. Find me at Urban Floater on Instagram. Float on and have fun.